What a pleasure to be back in this. This game only makes me fall in love with it more and more every time. Things have gotten a little bit more better. There's always some things that follow and drag certain tournaments and more as a tournament of this magnitude, how international, how big, how many nations are involved is there's negative and positive things to happen due to all the world and a lot of nations being involved. Diplomacy, politics, you know how it goes. But we're here to focus solely on football, soccer, and the World Cup. And of course, but is a beautiful sport, is a great time to be a football fan and foremost. And we are going to be focusing on some of the things that have been going on in this World Cup, some of the quality gaps that are closing. What are we seeing in this World Cup football wise in general? But this World Cup has started. It has been amazing, some crazy results, some matches and performances of teams that we did not expect. And some people can definitely, say we did not expect this to end up like this, or we did not expect such team to play like this. But this is football. Many things can happen. Sometimes, yes, dominance on paper shows on the field, but sometimes dominance on paper does not show on the field. And that's the beauty of this sport. Things do not go as people plan, as people predict, as some analytical people usually predict. Things don't go like that. And that's the beauty of this sport, that it gives you such a unpredictable results. But again, paper and then performance on the field are two different things. Yes, sometimes paper backs up performance, and sometimes paper does not back up performance, but that's just sports. One has to lose, one has to win. But this is the World Cup time, and we are diving into some of the things that have happened this week so far in the first few days. But for those that don't know, esto es pase ambidiestro, ambidextrous pass, fútbol honestamente, soccer, football honestly, and we are in some of the news and things that we have been seeing surrounding this World Cup results. We're diving into this World Cup and some of the things that we see in this World Cup that are some news that are lightly negative or negative for some, of course. Is the one of them is the border rigidities and the visa chaos. The most prominent backlash is directed, of course, at the United States because of the strict immigration and border enforcement, causing critics to label this as a most exclusionary tournament in history. And the incidences that, high profile figures have faced intense interrogation or outright denial of entry to the United States, like the Somalian African referee of the year, Omar Artan, was denied entry to Miami Airport and removed from the tournament roster. That's one of many people, but this was a referee that won the best referee of Africa, Somalian referee that was coming to initiate a game in the United for the World Cup in the United States, but he was denied entry. This goes into a more diplomatic and political issue, but these are things that are surrounding this. And at the same time, there has been fans with restrictions. A hardline travel restrictions and expanded travel bans have effectively barred ordinary fans from several qualified nations like Iran, Haiti, from attending games in the US. Furthermore, thousands of international supporters, including many from Scotland, have reported sudden and unexplained revocations of pre-approved ESTA travel authorizations just days before the flights. So these are some things that happen, yes, when you have such a strict nation when it comes to certain immigration laws. Yes, it's not a happy thing to hear as a football fan, more when you have to travel and you want to go see your nation perform in the biggest stage of sports in the world. And yes, it's understandable to hear the fans being frustrated. But these are things that FIFA and the government of the hosting nations have to get down to and talk about logistics, laws, and all that. But this just shows you that through the small cracks, problems, and just the small errors do slip. Some people for authority or people of representation don't like to hear those things, but it's bound to happen because it's a human made system, so flaws are made in the process and errors do happen. Such things are not the best to hear, but that's what happens. And at the same time, this World Cup faces commercial overload during hydration breaks. FIFA's newly instituted mandatory hydration breaks introduced to protect players from intense summer heat. This has infuriated television audiences worldwide. I can put myself in that note. I can put myself in that situation. I can put myself in those shoes. And yes, it has been annoying. The backlash is that, fans have heavily criticized domestic and international broadcasters, most notably, we know this one, Fox Sports in the United States, for cutting directly to commercial advertisements during these live breaks. The clunky timing has often caused viewers to miss live match play and broadcast cut back late, disrupting the flow of the game. And there's only one broadcaster, which is Telemundo through Peacock. They are not going into commercial time during the hydration break. This, I believe, takes away from the game, the intensity, the momentum. If you're a team that's struggling and is getting this hydration break and you're defending constantly, that gives you a moment to reassess and see what else can you do better if you are just playing defensively. And then as if you're playing offensively or a team that attacks the most, that also gives you a setback. How? Because it gives the other team a time to reset, reorganize, see what things are going right, see what things are not going see what things are going right and wrong, things that are going right, things that are going wrong. So you come in and you reassess, you are able to situate yourself again. And then the offensive team, the team that's attacking the most, the team that was trying to feel how can they attack, that team now has to feel the game again and plan and reassess. So kills full momentum for the attacking team more than anything. But it gives, of course, a kind of it gives a kind of breathing point to the defensive team. So is it the best? No, it's not. But small problems like this are the ones that we often are going to see, from the hydration break. It's not the best. Fans are pissed, and the game is slightly being taken away from all these big advertisement corporations that, yes, while they show an advertisement that might be new, they're making money. But that's just how some things work. That's what happens when you bring such tournament to this nation, a nation that the sports here every time there's a timeout, every time there's in basketball the ball bounces out, the clock stops. So they are trying to market the game too much when the game of football has never been marketed to that degree, where there is 45 minutes being played. And yes, the only thing that stops that is when the ball goes out, but the time and the clock does not stop. It keeps going. When players are injured, the game stops, but the clock keeps going. But in this situation, you have breaks. Yes, the clock keeps going, but in one point when they do the hydration break, the clock stops in the middle. At the 25th, between 20th to the 30th minute, teams get this hydration break. The clock stops, and then they go back. Technically, the clock doesn't stop. The referee does stop the clock, gives 3 minutes, and then they summarize the game and keep playing, and they keep going. But a lot of fans are not liking this because it takes away from that momentum. Some fans are also going into after the commercial, when the game comes on, some fans miss certain parts of the game because the advertisers want to get their advertisement out. So they are taking away from the football fan. And when football fans decide for this to be enough, it will be enough. And there's points that you have to reach to take action against something that takes away from a sport that is of the people, sport of the people, a huge sport, not only in the US now, but a huge sport and it has been huge around the world. Some people are starting to get pissed at this hydration breaks. But at the same time, one of the last negative issues surrounding this World Cup is the infrastructure delays and host country safety. There has been concerns over the transit systems and the safety that casts a shadow over some of the host venues and the nations that are hosting this World Cup. There's infrastructure cracks. Host cities have struggled with severe transit and construction modifications that they have done, or just additions that they have done to the transportation, to the transit, to the infrastructure to help it, be more fluent. In places like New Jersey, people have been waiting 3 hours for the buses. On the other hand, the trains and all that, they are working at a more decent pace, and they are working at the pace that they predicted and wanted it to be working at. But the buses have been an issue in this World Cup getting to some venues, since some of the host cities have been pushing for people to take public transportation. But we will see as it develops. I believe that as time goes, the more of a demanding game it is, the worse the transportation will get. But that's for cities, for host cities, for personnel of representation of each of those host cities will have to address the issue if they really don't want to deal with the backlash of the people. But sometimes, you just ignore and keep on moving with the process that you first stated when such event was going to take place. But again, in this World Cup, we see infrastructure delays and host cities' country safety. We see a commercial overload during hydration breaks, and we see border rigidities and visa chaos, something that not a lot of people want to hear, or people who represent, states, towns, cities, host cities don't want to hear such things. But the infrastructure delays and host city safety is more of a focus due to this World Cup already being in process, being in place, taking place, proceeding as the days go by. Infrastructure problems and transportation will become a huge topic. Insecurity, anxieties will also become a huge, huge topic, because people want to feel secure. People want to go out and have a good time in public. But when you have to walk with a safety anxiety in the back of your mind, you are not going to enjoy the moment or the event or whatever it is that you're taking part of in the public. What do we see in this World Cup football wise? In this World Cup football wise, we see the underdog gap is closing post expansion. We are seeing clinical dominant attacks separate the contenders, and we are seeing substitutes and youth that are deciding matches. So first of all, the underdog gap is closing post expansion of this World Cup. The biggest takeaway is that expanding the tournament to 48 teams has not diluted the competition as skeptics feared, and I was one of those people. But instead, debutants and lower ranked nations are providing highly capable of frustrating the world elites. Some of these nations that are amazing, they have great football. We have Cape Verde that pulled off one of the greatest opening match shocks by holding reigning European champions Spain to a greedy 0-0 draw in Atlanta, completely neutralizing their star-studded attack. We have Morocco, who proved their historic 2022 semi-final run was not a structural shift, not a fluke, by hunting down a 1-1 draw against five-time champions Brazil. We have Curacao, who showed incredible fearless during their debut celebration, legendary equalizer to keep Germany deadlocked 1-1 for 17 minutes before the Germans eventually just laid it all out, and then they gave the 7-1 masterclass. But then you also have a game like Scotland against Haiti, a Haiti that might have lost 1-0. Scotland won, yes, but Scotland won on a deflecting shot that did not represent what the game actually was. Then you have in Australia against a Turkey. Not a lot of people have the highest expectations of Australia, but let me tell you, a lot of people do have high expectations of Turkey. And in this one, Turkey loses. Turkey takes a blow. Turkey now sees themselves in a predicament that they do not want to be in. But these things do happen. These things do happen in football. Another match that we see is teams like right now, as we speak, Saudi Arabia and Uruguay. You have a nation that was the one who created the World Cup, and then you have a nation that has been building their football in the past few years. At the moment, Saudi Arabia wins. So, yes, you have a World Cup where the underdog gap is closing post expansion. You will never think that nations like Cape Verde, nations like Curacao, they will come and put some type of fight, some type of, you know, defensive structure that these big elite nations that play football at times see themselves like they are not able to overcome those obstacles. But then we also have the clinical dominant attacks separate the, that separate the contenders. While several heavyweights have stumbled out of the blocks, the teams finding immediate success are doing so through high octane offensive output and clinical transition. You have Germany, who established themselves as an absolute tier 1 contenders by dropping a ruthless 7-1 scoreline in Curacao, led by a clinical brace from Kai Havertz. Then you have teams like Sweden matching that energy by completely dismantling Tunisia 5-1 in Group F, showing zero mercy in their opening fixtures. Then you have teams like the United States that execute an incredible sharp attacking game plan, dominating 75% of their first half possession to root out Paraguay for one, and then marking the most goals in the US has ever scored in a single men's World Cup match. So you do have those things in this World Cup. And then at the same time, in this World Cup, you have the substitutes and the youth that are deciding the matches. With tight schedules and intense summer conditions, tactical depth and fearless youth have become an ultimate wild cards for managers. The youth search 17-year-old Gilberto Mora made history for Mexico's youngest ever World Cup player during their physical 2-0 win over South Africa. Meanwhile, 20-year-old Nestroy Irancu became Australia's youngest ever World Cup scorer to seal a 2-0 upset over Turkey. Then you have players like from Morocco, Ayub. He in the midfield guy, the guy's maturity of the game is he's like playing like a senior footballer. Somebody who has been doing this for 10 plus years. Some of these players are showing that their maturity is key, even though they are young. They are 17 years old, 18 years old, 19 years old, 20 years old. That's the beauty of this World Cup, that some nations are able to bring some of the best players to be showcased in this World Cup, and clubs look into this. Clubs are start making transfer movements that put these players on such a huge stage. But at the same time, you have the super subs, the substitutes that are providing vital to rescuing points. When Canada looked stuck against Bosnia, and the head coach Jesse Marsh, he just turned to Larin off the bench, who immediately scored a brilliant 78th minute equalizer to secure Canada's first senior men's World Cup. Then you have also people like Lukaku, who came off the bench and helped create the pressure for Belgium to go back and level the game and get in this game. But this World Cup has brought many things, many things. Again, there is negative, there's positive things that surround such a tournament, huge tournament place. But this World Cup has gave us some crazy displays, some new talent to look at, some upcoming talent that has been on the radar of certain clubs, some positive and negative things because of such a magnitude a sports event taking place in three nations. There are many things that are bound to follow, but This World Cup has not let us down. It has made great memories so far, and an expansion to 48 teams only entertains the football fan more and more and more. But this is all for this World Cup as of right now. We will be back in the end of the week to see what goes on in the groups and to get back into match day 2. But thank you for all of those that are always here with me, always tuning in. And this is a beautiful, beautiful sport. The World Cup is here with us, and the World Cup will only give us more memories to look at and great, great memories to later reminisce about, because this only comes along every 4 years. So far, the World Cup has not let us down. This is a beautiful, beautiful sport. And for those that don't know, esto es pase ambidiestro, ambidextrous pass, fútbol honestamente, soccer, football honestly. And for those that are always tuning in, and for those that want to keep up with this World Cup, summarizing the groups or certain matches, please like and subscribe. And if you love football, please subscribe and follow. Have a good one. Thank you all. But that's all for today. Thank you all. Have a good one. Thank you all.